Ibrahim alayhi salam, he was with the angel of death. He was with the angel of death. With the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the angel of death don't come unannounced. They don't come unannounced. They're servants of prophets. No prophet with an angel just come and snatch it. No prophet with an angel just come and snatch it. So that's for normal human beings. Ibrahim alayhi salam says to the angel of death, Azrael, show me how you appear to an unbeliever. He said, you're not going to be able to bear it. So you won't be able to take it. He's insistent. Show me how you appear to an unbeliever. He's insistent. So he says to Ibrahim alayhi salam, turn away. He changes form. A frightening, fearsome form. He turns back. Ibrahim alayhi salam looks and falls unconscious. He falls unconscious. What's he see? The most enormous form. And in some narrations it mentions the angel of death. When he takes, he increases in size such that he covers the whole of the earth. Like the earth becomes a ball in front of him, and he just picks out the soul. He just takes out the soul. That's on the opinion. That's also on the opinion of those who say that there's only one angel of death. Because then a question happens: what if there's simultaneous death across the earth? How does the angel of death take it? He expands in size such that he can pick out multiple souls at the same time. And he's a frightening form, and he mentions that fire is coming out of his mouth. Ibrahim actually fainted at that point. And when he recovers, Ibrahim, and the angel of death has gone back to his normal form. Ibrahim said, if the unbeliever never suffered any other punishment except for what he sees at that point, it would be enough for him as a punishment. Just that initial point, but it gets worse after that. That's just the first point. Then he says to Azrael, show me how you appear to a believer. He says, turn away. Turn away. He changes, he looks back, and he sees the most beautiful form, the most beautiful angelic light form. And when he looks at it, Ibrahim says to him, if the believer never received any other reward except for this will be enough. You're seeing the angel of death at that point in the most beautiful forms. When the angel of death comes to the believer, he will say to the believer, Ya ayyatuha an-nafs al-mutma'innah, irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan mardiyah. He said, O content soul, return back to your Lord. You are content with your Lord, and your Lord is content with you. And that's why the ulama say that at the point of death, when the person sees the angel of death, the believer sees the angel of death, he will know what's going to happen to him after that. At that point, like what did the angel say? Abshiru bil jannati allati kuntum tu'adun. Receive glad tidings of the Jannah that you've been promised. Nahnu awliya'ukum fil hayati dunya wa fil akhirah. We are your awliya, we are your protecting friends in this world, and we were with you in this world, looking after you, taking care of you, and we'll be your protecting friends in the next world. The angels were with you in this life, helping, guarding, protect you, and in the next world, the same thing. So the believer has it as easy as possible, although that transition is painful, but when he sees the angel, it makes it easier for him. It makes it easier for him. But the opposite is the case. The opposite is the case for the unbeliever. That most ferocious, frightening form that he's going to see. Such that when you see that unbeliever who dies and we see that frightening look on his face, what's he seeing? That which caused Ibrahim to faint. He saw the angel of death in that form. And at that point onwards, what did the angel say? Akhriju anfusakum, give up your soul. Give up your soul. Al-yawma tujzawna adhab al-hun. From now you're going to suffer a humiliating punishment. Bima kuntum tastakbiruna fil ardi wa bima kuntum tafsukun. Because you are arrogant in the earth and because you were sinners on the earth. Because you were arrogant on earth and because you were sinners on earth. So even the experience of bringing out the soul of the human being, even that experience, part of the reward for the next world begins at that point for the believer. The punishment begins at that point for the believer, for the unbeliever. Then what happens? The soul of the believer is taken up into heaven. The soul of the believer now is cut out of the body. That form becomes lifeless. It's taken, and the angel now rises with that soul all the way up, passing through heaven after heaven after heaven. As he passes through every single heaven, all the angels will be praising, singing the praise of that person, calling him by the best names that he was known in this world, until he rises up to the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the soul of that believer is placed in al-'illiyyin. The soul of the believer is placed it is deposited and kept in al-'illiyyin. The unbeliever is the reverse. The reverse. The unbeliever, his soul has been wrenched out of him, taken up, insulted and abused by angels as he passed, called the worst type of names that he was referred to in this world, insulted and abused by angels as he passes. Then when he comes up to the heavens, won't let him through. He's not allowed to go through. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about that, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا بِآيَاتِنَا وَاسْتَكْبَرُوا عَنْهَا لَا تُفَتَّحُ لَهُمْ أَبْوَابُ الْجَنَّةِ. Those who are unbelievers and were arrogant in front of our signs, the doors of heavens will not be opened up for them. What's that? At the point where the soul rises. Their souls will not rise. The souls of the believers will rise. لا تفتح لهم أبواب الجنة أبواب السماء ولا يدخلون الجنة حتى يلج الجمل في سم الخياط. And they will never enter into heaven until a camel passes through the eye of an eagle. Meaning what? Never happened. Then what happens to them? They're caged in a prison called Sijjin, and they'll be there, and their souls will taste that torment from that point onwards. What happens after that? Human beings have now buried that person. It's sunnah recommended as soon as possible. There should be no delay in burying the dead body. It's not an issue 3 days or whatever. As soon as possible, you bury. Some people say no, it can't be after 3 days, so you shouldn't delay full stop. And 3 days isn't the issue. As soon as you do all of what's required, you wash, you shroud, you do everything that's required, there should be no delay whatsoever. Somebody one time told me that, I went to Liverpool, that he was advised, somebody died on a Monday, said delay it until it's Friday because there's more people they're praying for. That's too long. That's too long. There's no reason to delay. Just get people on the Friday to make dua for the dead body, but don't be delaying funeral for any reason whatsoever. Unless there's a necessity. Unless there's a necessity, there's a need, only then can a funeral be delayed. The Prophet passed away on Monday, he was buried on a Wednesday. Why the delay? To choose the Khalifa. They chose, the Sahaba considered that more of a priority than burying the Prophet, and choose a Khalifa, to choose a leader of the Muslims at that point. Other than that, if there's no necessity, no delay whatsoever in the funeral. And again, just to mention this point here, and sometimes you have a practice where people come and see the face of the dead body. Absolutely no harm in that, but that should not be a cause of delaying the funeral. That should not be a cause to delay the funeral. Like what happened recently, a friend's father passed away, we went to the janazah in the mosque, and the good thing that the mosque did there, they announced that we're going to pray dhuhr, straight after dhuhr the body's been taken. Anybody want to see the face before dhuhr prayer? It's not going to be delayed after dhuhr prayer for people to come and see the dead body. So any questions so far? Any questions? Sheikh, you okay? Then when the dead body has been placed and the funeral has taken place, what's recommended for people to do at that point? To remain behind, to make du'as for the person, to read Quran for that person, send the reward to the deceased who's passed on. All of that's recommended, but eventually what will happen? Every last person will leave. At that point, the interrogating angels come. At that point, the angels come. And what happens in there? You buried the dead body. If you were to come back a week later and look there, what's there? Decomposed, rotten body. A year later, completely gone. All that you see is bones there. All you see is bones there. What happens? We say there's a parallel existence that takes place in Barzakh. That place, the grave that's there, in a parallel existence that is the Barzakh, in the intermediate realm, there's a resting place that we call his grave. What happens there when you put that body in there, that's going to decompose very quickly. That's not what happens then. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at that point creates exactly the same body. exactly the same body in the barzakh. That grave is not the barzakh. If you dug up that grave in a week's time, there's nothing left there. In a parallel realm, side by side with that, there's a grave. There's a resting, which is his resting place. In there, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala recreates exactly the same body, not a replica of it. The ulama say exactly the same body. Why? They say it's unjust that you did good deeds or you sinned with this body and then a replica is created and that one will be punished. So no, if you did bad deeds, it's this one that will be punished. If you do good deeds, it's this one that will receive the reward. So the same body is recreated in the barzakh. And then what happens? Your soul is reconnected to it. Your soul is reconnected to it. Whether it's in Aliyin or whether it's in Sijjin, your soul is reconnected. Exactly the same way as you're sleeping. When you're asleep, you're not dead, but it's as if you're dead. What happens when you sleep? Your body, you're not lifeless, you're still moving. Your soul is not disconnected. Your soul is gone, but there's still a connection. The same in the grave, but the same in the barzakh. And your soul is not actually sat inside your body. In this world, your soul is caged inside the body. No, your soul is in Aliyin or in Sijjin, but there's a connection to it, such that any reward and any punishment, both of them will feel it. Both of them will feel it. Soul as well as body. And that's the opinion of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. The soundest opinion. Body and soul are rewarded and punished. Body and soul. Not one and not the other. There are those who say the soul and not the body. There are those who say the body and not the soul. Both of them are rejected opinions. Body and soul will be rewarded and punished. Exactly the same body, exactly the same soul. The soul never died. The soul was taken out and moved into its next stage. What's that next stage? The same body to put back into, but in the realm of barzakh. How do we know? How do we know this? Because how do we know there's a parallel existence and the same body and so? Because the Prophet told us the grave is going to constrict and it's going to expand and a portal into Jannah is going to be opened up. Open that grave, you're not going to see anything in there. Nothing, that's just soil there. That's why the fuqaha say a long time after, when that's become derek, you can build on that. You can build on a cemetery. Like generations have passed, derek land that you can build on top of that. You can bury another person inside there. While it's recognised by the grave, you can't touch it. There's respect now for the deceased. But generations and centuries have passed, build over it, no problem whatsoever. The likelihood is we're over the cemetery right now. Don't freak out. Across the whole of the earth, somewhere down the line, somebody may have been buried there like millennia ago, tens of thousands of years ago. That's not the issue. The barzakh is where it's all taking place at. It's not that point now you bury. Once that's become derek, it's a completely different reality. This is just soil now.